And I thought it was bad form tonight to go into that hall and not respect the office of the president. What do you think that's bad form?
So I do. So, for example, Al Green in the beginning, it's like there was no point to that. Nobody could even hear what you're saying. It makes our side look bad. There's just no point to it. It's counterproductive, right?
Oh, so let's hear that one more time. He agrees with Dr. Phil's framing of the situation that it was the Democratic Party that was out of line last night.
And I thought it was bad form tonight to go into that hall and not respect the office of the president. What do you think that's bad form?
So I do. So, for example, Al Green in the beginning, it's like there was no point to that. Nobody could even hear what you're saying. It makes our side look bad. There's just no point to it. It's counterproductive, right?
A complete disgrace. As I said, the whole point was that it offered Al Green the opportunity in the aftermath of that speech to go on cable news, to be asked by reporters and journalists about why he did what he did. At least that gave the media something else to talk about last night and this morning that wasn't just regurgitating all the bullshit from Donald Trump's speech. If it weren't for Al Green's protest, that's literally all the media coverage would have been. Them talking about regurgitating and getting triggered at times over shit that Donald Trump said. Thankfully, since Al Green actually did something, now the media has that to talk about, and they have him to ask why he did that thing. Cenk knows this, but he wants to coddle this right-wing narrative. He wants to scold Democrats, including this black Democrat from Texas, and say that he was out of line. Are you fucking kidding me? Can you believe the disrespect?
No, what he's doing is he's doing the most pick-me bullshit, right? He's like, oh, I'm one of the good Democrats. Please continue to have me on your show. I'm financially destitute. I need your money. I need your checks. I can't pay myself. That's what I'm seeing from this right now. I am 100% convinced after watching this because he's not happy here. Guys, this is not Cenk's element. I have watched Cenk own a room. I've watched him be in his element, and I've watched him do all of that while lying through his teeth. This ain't it. This is Cenk Uygur. He's a Nazi. Cenk goes ballistic on Donald Trump. That's what he believes. And I know that deep down there's a Cenk Uygur, right, that wants to look at Dr. Phil and be like, no, I don't think the Republicans have any reason to be bringing up decorum. They elected Donald Trump not once but twice. Why would I, as somebody who has watched this man deny an election, try and lead an entire brigade of his supporters to the Capitol building to subvert the will of the American people? Why would I give the benefit of the doubt? Why would I give the decency of decorum? Why would I play along with the pageantry of this man who has done nothing but disgrace our nation? A man who has done nothing but give the middle finger to decorum, to give the middle finger to decency. How dare the Republicans demand that after they have soiled whatever kind of reputation the United States, whatever kind of dignity we could afford ourselves is gone, not because of me, the resistance, but because of the man that I am resisting. I know Cenk can respond with that kind of fire. I've seen him do it. I've watched him look at the other direction and be like, are you kidding me? You have absolutely no ground to stand on. You're digging a hole in quicksand, okay? You have absolutely nothing. But instead, he decides that he's going to hold out his hat in hand and just completely gratify and jerk off all of Dr. Phil's talking points. And it's not because he believes it. It's because of money and his bottom line.
Yep, 100%, 100%. Let's take in a few more seconds of this and then fast forward because there's a lot of weird, kind of almost surreal moments from this interview, guys. But let's keep going.
Now, at the same time, the president also has a responsibility to reach out to the other side. So, for example, almost everything he did was red meat, right? I'm the greatest. I'm better than George Washington. And not only that, he'd go and point to the Democrats and they won't stand up and they won't do this and they won't do that. But, you know, we've talked about things that bring us together. So earlier we talked about negotiating drug prices, right? That brings us all together, has a popularity around near 90%. Now, if he talked about that, then the Democrats, if they didn't stand up, then I would have said you lose your mind, right? But they would have stood up at that point. Right?
I don't know.
Well, look, here's the thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
They didn't stand up for a 6-year-old boy that had overcome cancer, but they're not much.
Yeah.
So, 13, he'd lived 6 years.
And yeah, over and over again, Dr. Phil played into this. I swear to God, most of these Republican right-wing talking heads, these commentators, they spend more time talking about the fact that Democrats didn't stand up for some cancer-ridden kid or some stupid bullshit. They spent more time talking about that than anything Trump actually said, any of the monumentally terrible proposals that he made and policies he discussed on stage last night. Nope. They all just want to talk about the fact that some Democrats didn't stand up for some stupid stunt, for some stupid, like, appeal to emotions to try to make everyone forget about what a terrible state this nation's in by, spotlighting some sick fucking kid. Yeah, that's all Dr. Phil wants to talk about, of course.
Yeah, and it's crazy, right? Because what you're doing is and we know that Dr. Phil will do this, but you are just buying hook, line, and sinker propaganda so that people's rights are eroded, right? Let's talk about the Lake and Riley Act, right? People are murdered in this country all the time. The Republicans don't want to do a goddamn thing about it. Do you know what would do a goddamn thing about it? Let's talk about gun control, right? Harder to kill people if you can't get any guns. They'll kill people with knives. Not as many. Not as many people will get killed if you have to kill them with knives. Look at every other fucking country, right? Oh, well, one time in Japan in 2009, there was a guy that killed 4 people with a knife. Yeah. And how many Columbines have happened? Do you know what I mean? So they're not very interested in actually solving the problem. What they are interested in doing is taking a single tragedy and using it to, blow up a specific pet political issue of them. Meanwhile, they will talk about how the Democrats politicize every gun tragedy in the country. So it's transparently hypocritical, right? And what Cenk should be doing is bringing up all the points that I just did, but instead he's got nothing, and he allows himself to be guided by Dr. Phil, who is 100% patronizing him right now.
Oh, 100%. We're going to get to more patronizing right now, actually. Let's take a minute to watch Dr. Phil introduce all of our favorite congressmen from California. Let's take a look here.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon, my friend. Thank you so much. All right. Joining us now is California Democratic Congressman Roy Kahana.
Roy Kahana.
Roe, Democratic Congressman Roy Kahana. Roe, what are you thinking after President?
Look at poor Roe's face. He just got introduced by like 4 different fucking names. Roy Kahana. That is beautiful.
You can tell that this took Roe right back to like 4th grade. He's got a substitute teacher, and everybody, it's like Jim Brown here, Susie Q here, Rachel Bowman here, Roy Ho, hey Hannah. No, crickets. Oh, Ryan's over here, man. No, that's me, bro, Kana. Oh, sorry about that, Buster.
And you guys have no idea. Like it would keep me up at night for a month if I fucked up somebody's name that bad on the show to their face. I know I've done it before, but to their face, if we had someone like Ro Khanna on the show, or some other congressperson with a hard to pronounce name, at least from my perspective, I would do my fucking homework. I'd be like, all right, got to make sure that I say this right when this person comes on, or else I'll feel bad. And in the few times that has happened, it has kept me up at night. I literally still feel bad about it just because it's fucking embarrassing, right? Dr. Phil seemingly does not share that concern. And if you can believe it, Zach, this isn't actually the only time in the show where he fucked up the introduction of somebody. We're going to go right back to this video, but actually if we take a look over here, this is the beginning of the actual town hall, and take a look at his introduction of his good friend Cenk Uygur, and tell me if you can spot the mistake he makes here, because this was also really hilarious.
Well, as we get ready to hear President Trump's address to Congress, I want to thank you all for joining me for our 4th town hall here on Merit TV. Thank you very much. Tonight, I want to hear what you think and what you're feeling about his first 45 days of his second term. Can you believe it's only been 45 days? It's been a whirlwind, to say the least. Would you all agree with that? I mean, a lot's been going on. Don't hold back our nation together.
This is the face of a man. Look into his eyes for a second. We've paused the screen for everyone. Just go ahead and take one look into those eyes right there. This is a man who has not made content for anyone who stayed up past 5:30 in 15, 20 years. I just want to set the table, guys, for a man who prides himself as being the only serious person on progressive YouTube. I've been doing it the longest. I've been doing news on YouTube longer than anybody, blah, blah, blah. He has no connections. He has no clout. And this is the stop a few places after daytime television. Okay, Dr. Phil isn't prime time anymore. He's doing this shit for a network that has like 85,000 YouTube subscribers. It is a disaster. They have 22,000 Twitter followers with this media company. Okay, for perspective, we've got about 14,000 Twitter followers, and we're not a media company.
And take a look at this, by the way. These live streams from last night with Cenk, they got 1.7 thousand views and 2.5 thousand views. Those are the live streams. That means over the 3-4 hours that this was being broadcast, almost nobody was watching.
Oh, it's humiliating. Guys, if that happened to me and Gavin, we would take it down. We'd be so humiliated. We wouldn't be able to let it sit up on the internet. We'd be like, God, we need to take a week off. We need to, like, trip together, fucking come to with a new shtick, maybe. Okay, let's try and be the most sophisticated assholes we can be. I don't know. I'll wear a monocle. We'll dress up in suits. We'll give it another shot. You know what I mean? No, it would be absolutely humiliating. What I have to imagine, Gavin, is that Dr. Phil is using this to launder money and maybe tax write-offs and shit like that. And
some people also think he might be like preparing for a run for office himself, kind of like Dr. Oz did. And then he just wants to kind of get one foot in the political world. So that's also a possibility, but I think you might be onto something.
Either way, he's not doing this for profit. I think that's clear. He's not, if he's making money from this, it's not organic is what I'm saying. It's another vehicle that's sending him money to do this, or another thing that's motivating him. And what Cenk is doing is he's being forced to eat from the trough, right? Because Cenk is being paid for this. And what's so humiliating, guys, is that as Cenk continues to do this kind of thing, right, he is squandering whatever value he might have on the free market. So when he leaves the Young Turks, he is going to have shown everyone he is not a draw. When you go out and you say, I'm here with Cenk Uygur, that does not attract a unique audience of people who want to hear from Cenk Uygur, because he has no base now. He has no audience that is loyal to him. You take a guy like Vosh, even, who is very controversial. You take a guy like Destiny, who's very, very controversial, right? They'll at least promise to bring like 10,000 hardcores with them when they go. Like, you know what I mean? And you'll get some sort of views if you like have them on your panel or something like that, if they promote it on their show. Cenk can promote all he wants from his Twitter or from the Young Turks. He's still going to get like 2,000 live views on a stream. When the Vanguard finishes our stream, if it's less than like 15,000 people had watched it over the course of the entire stream, I'd be like, damn, we gotta, next stream, we're gonna really go for it. You know what I mean? Like, that's our level, right? We're supposed to be bottom of Cenk's shoe. I mean, come on, guys. This is crazy.
Yep. Either way, let's take a look at this introduction to Cenk, this epic introduction.
But before we get started, I want to introduce someone that I have a deep respect for. He's become a good friend of mine, sometimes an adversary, and he's my co-host tonight. He's the co-founder and host of the Young Turks, the longest-running daily show in internet history, and the Young Turks Network. He is also the best-selling author of Justice is Coming. I'm talking about Cenk Uygur. Cenk is known for his passionate commentary, and he's built a platform, YTY. How are you doing, my friend?
YTY.
Good to see you. Good to
I was waiting because I was like, Cenk Uygur, that's pretty good on the name. So,
Still finds a way to fuck it up. YTY. Imagine introducing someone as, oh, this guy's I've really become friends with him. He's a friend and an adversary, and then you don't even know the fucking name of his show.
Platform, YTY. How are you doing, my friend?
Good, brother.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Oh, so humiliated. So humiliated. So we got YTY and Roy Kahana. Clearly someone doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. This is more proof that this is like when I try to talk about sports, maybe I could pretend to know what I'm talking about for like a few minutes, but if anyone who really knows sports listens to me try to pretend like I know what I'm talking about, it would take like 5 seconds before they realize that I'm kind of just like throwing shit at the wall. Oh, I think this sounds right. That sounds right. But, you know, you quickly realize as people that actually pay attention to this stuff that Dr. Phil doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's not really part of this world. He's not really plugged in to this world like we are, which is why if you actually look at his website, this is the kind of shit he's producing. Like he hosts these propaganda specials between the border czar and Eric Adams. And then here's him going on that ICE raid that we talked about yesterday, right? Inside the ICE raid, Dr. Phil's Chicago investigation. Dr. Phil at the first arrest of ICE raid in Chicago, unmasking the truth. Dr. Phil embeds with ICE. So this doesn't even really seem like, like you said, Zach, it doesn't really seem like Dr. Phil got in this because he wants to attract an organic audience. It seems like he's literally being used as a propaganda pawn, as like a friendly face for these mass deportations and for the horrors of ICE. He's certainly being paid by the Trump administration or the Republican Party in some way, shape, or form in order to launder their reputation to normies.
Oh, 1,000,000%. There is no organic audience for this. And the only reason a guy like Dr. Phil is doing this is because he's been promised endorsements as a result of using his name for this, right? If he does want to go the Dr. Oz route that you mentioned, or he's broke because nobody watches Dr. Phil anymore and he has the spending habits that he's always had, and he assumed that he was going to be able to ride out his popularity for good. So what does he have to do? He has to go and humiliate himself out here, right? You know how we've talked about how now it's super lame that celebrities will just be in commercials all the time, when back in the day you used to have to do the Lost in Translation and go to Japan and be in a whiskey commercial there because it was pathetic to do it in America. Well, one of the things that happened for people who were on daytime television, right, is that they were making money hand over fist. We remember being shocked by how much money Don Lemon made. I mean, this guy made millions and millions and millions of dollars, right? And then what happens? The bottom falls out and they're no longer making millions and millions of dollars, but they want to spend cash like they are, right? Because they have this lifestyle that's insatiable, right? Because when rich people get rich, they spend money on all kinds of crazy shit and they don't know how to not do that anymore. Well, what is a guy like Dr. Phil doing? He is figuring out a new way to become awash with funds. Right. And it's basically the daytime television host equivalent of going and starring in a commercial. Right. You lose all your street cred. You lose all of your objective credentials, but you get to continue to live lavishly and look out for number one.
Yep. 100%. Before we take a lok at a little bit more of this, got to just hear this one more time.
All right. Joining us now is California Democratic Congressman Roy Kahana. Roe, what are you thinking after President Trump's address to Congress, sir?
He looks so nervous and like awkward, like fuck. I do not know how to pronounce this guy's name. Either way, this was really awkward. RFK stopped by. So let's take a look here. We can just watch a little bit of this as Dr. Phil butters up his good buddy RFK. This is just so awkward. It was almost just glorious to just watch the awkwardness.
So, Mr. Secretary, get some sleep and we'll talk to you again very soon, sir. Thank you very much.
I look forward to it. I'm always love to talk to you. And Cenk, it's very, very good to see you too.
Good to see you. Yep.
All right. Joining us now is my very good friend, Stephen A. Smith. Stephen.
What's going on, big time? How are you, Dr. Phil? How are you, Cenk? How's everything going?
How are you
I guess never mind. Huh? Oh, go ahead. Never mind. Oh.
doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Doing great. It's good to see y'all. How you doing?
I'm all right. So did you watch the speech tonight?
From start to finish. It almost put me to sleep because it was too damn long, but it was one of his better speeches. I'll give him credit for that.
Hey, don't sugarcoat it, man. Spit it out. Just tell us how you feel.
I just
This is Dr. Phil like doing his like Dr. Phil isms. Like I think Stephen Smith is gonna tell everyone how he feels. I don't think that was like in question. That's kind of his whole fucking thing.
I can't get over how Dr. Phil looks like a combination of Mike Lindell and the rat from Flushed Away. You know what I mean? I really, it's hard for me to even pay attention to any of the words that come out of his mouth. That's the only thing I could be thinking about if I watched this for 2 hours and 40 minutes. It would be like, damn, what was your genetic code like, Dr. Phil?
Yeah. Anyway, this was a weird town hall. They get into it with some of these voters. And it really does just seem like a a propaganda thing for the Republican Party. Like I don't want to just scroll through this all watching all these random moments, but there's one part where a guy expresses some fears about the ICE raids and the mass deportations and the constitutional gray area and all this kind of stuff, and Dr. Phil just goes into this clearly pre-written monologue about how they're only going after the criminals, and you don't need to worry about it, they're only going after the real bad guys and all this stuff. And it just seems like the whole point of this was for Dr. Phil to launder the reputation of Donald Trump and the worst parts of his agenda by reading out these scripted responses and rebuttals to any potential issues or qualms voters have. So I like the idea of doing town halls. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I like when Breaking Points does it. It's a good thing to chat with normal people and voters. But this it felt very propagandistic in its presentation. And Cenk, I don't think, did a very good job playing the role of the left flank. He kind of just rolled over half the time. And when he did push back or make a progressive argument, it was always very timid.
Yeah, it's crazy too. Like, and I love the shout out that he got from RFK, right? Where it's like, I can't wait till our dogs get together, brother. And Cenk's like, hey man, that's actually not the kind of thing we're talking about on air right now, bro. Like, I'm gonna text you, bro. But like, not right now. It's like when you were a kid and you saw a guy that you knew from Boy Scouts and he comes up to you. He's like, hey man, I can't wait to see you at baseball, bro. At our next baseball game, I'm gonna see you. Anyway, like Cenk has humiliated himself beyond. Because could you imagine, Gavin? Like, even with your, you and I, we have like a very limited amount of things that we would ever get invited to. We would never go out here and be the left flank and roll over. Like, to be honest, I'm surprised that Cenk agreed to this at all, because he's just such an obvious token to be laughed at. He's set up to fail. And so if you do decide to go through with this, you have to just become a complete, douchebag the whole time, right? You have to just be an instigator. You have to just cause problems and nitpick everything, because you have to not be what they signed up for. You have to kind of blow up the whole thing. And instead, he plays the part that they wanted him to play, which is an easy mark that they could tear down.
100%. And I think that Cenk kind of knows this was embarrassing, because so far it seems like this is the only portion of the town hall that was actually posted to the Young Turks. The whole stream is available for members only on their channel, from what I can tell. As you can see here, members only for the actual full town hall. And then it looks like really the only clip they published is this one, at least so far from what I can see, where they're pretending like Cenk challenged RFK Jr. In reality, he did not challenge RFK Jr. If you want to take a quick look, you can see the challenge that he administered. I don't think it was very satisfactory, given what RFK has already overseen as HHS.
We hear politicians, Obama, Trump, et cetera, tell us that they're going to take on corporations, they're going to take on donors, and they're going to negotiate drug prices. You said it here today. So, Bobby, can we hold you accountable? So if you guys do not negotiate drug prices for Medicare, have you failed?
Joining us now is Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy.
Anyway, that was Cenk, challenging RFK, and luckily it seems like a lot of people in the comments, have pointed this out. This comment says, "What's the point of a so-called progressive channel platforming a ghoul like RFK Jr. if they're not going to push back against anything he says?" Hey, Cenk, what happened to when we disagree, we fight? What a sellout and disappointment the whole TYT network has become. That's pretty harsh.
Yeah, dude. It also doesn't look like they have a single defender here. Like, if you look at every single comment, people might be defending RFK, right? But they're not defending Cenk, right? Like, Cenk is not willing to give anyone with an R behind their name any opportunity to try and perform or succeed. Sadly, RFK is a Democrat. However, he left these are just like random ass talking points from people who have seen him from Dr. Phil. Now, there is no organic audience from TYT left that's willing to defend him. They're either Vanguard listeners and people who have left TYT, or they're people who have found him from his new right-wing escapades and now don't like him because of any shred of nuance he's willing to provide.
Yep, 100%. So I don't know, this was embarrassing. Here's some of the top comments. So they're all negative. So again, I really don't understand what the fuck the point of this is. And we talked about it yesterday. For one, it doesn't really make much sense from Dr. Phil's perspective. Obviously, Dr. Phil is a way bigger celebrity than Cenk Uygur. If you go up to any random American on the street, they almost certainly know who Dr. Phil is. Maybe 1 out of 10 will know Cenk Uygur. You know what I'm saying? So for one, like, why is Dr. Phil even humiliating himself to this degree? He really should just be doing his own thing, the reality TV shtick that he's known for. That's what he's good at. Not that that isn't also deeply problematic and unethical, but I'm just saying, like, that's what he's good at. No one that likes him in that role really wants to see him get into this role as a political propagandist, talking head, or political candidate, if that actually is something that's going to happen. I don't think that's a great idea. I really don't. And also, again, from the Young Turks perspective, what the fuck is the point of this? Your audience clearly doesn't like it. It seems like the only point of this is that Cenk Uygur, like, for the sake of Cenk and Anna's like social circle, like, oh, now we get to, get invited to these cool parties that rich celebrities like Dr. Phil hosts. Like, I really think that kind of what it boils down to. Like, Cenk wants to go on hikes with RFK. Cenk wants to go to Mar-a-Lago. He said it himself. I would go to Mar-a-Lago. He wants to, get invited to a party that Dr. Phil puts on, or even to a party that the Daily Wire throws, right? That people like Dr. Phil are invited to. He kind of wants to be part of that social fabric.
I probably so. My read on this specific collaboration with Merit TV is that Cenk needs the money. I think that he was paid in the form of a check that he fucking needed, bro. And I bet it was part of their negotiations that they member held it on the TYT side so that it would mostly drive the traffic to the Merit TV subscriber base. And I think that Cenk has gotten to the point in his career where he is negotiating with upstart YouTube channels, right, to try and lend his credence, to lend his platform as they now try and break in. Because one of the things that I've noticed is that there is a shit ton of competition on YouTube right now. Like Gavin and I, when we started our YouTube channel during COVID, right, during the lockdowns, everybody was like, it's the worst time in the world to start a YouTube channel. It's too late. Nobody can organically break through anymore. You guys are wasting your time. This was very common to say. Now, I think it's way harder. Over the last 5 years, like if we were starting our show now from scratch, we would be delusional enough to keep doing it, but it would be way, way harder. And so you have a lot of these people, and they want to break through and be the next Nightcap, and they want to be the next Pierce Morgan, and they want to have big cultural relevance right off the bat. And I would wager, right? This is speculation. I don't have the dirt. I don't have the numbers. If I did, I would never stop talking about this. But I think what Cenk is most likely doing at this point is leveraging the fact that he's been doing it the longest, which is something that Dr. Phil brought up at the beginning of that broadcast, that he's been doing it every single day as a way of establishing his credentials, and then auctioning that off on the free market as a way of saying, like, oh, if you have me on your show, I'll help you build up your following, even though that's going to be short-lived because people are going to learn quickly that it's not working. That's what I think he's advertising. And I think he's only doing that out of desperation because of the memberships that have been cut, because he has a very high overhead at the Young Turks. And I would imagine also a very high standard of living for himself.
Yeah, fair enough. I just think that, Cenk is good in a few different settings. He's really good in the Piers Morgan setting, essentially the debate setting, where he can kind of go crazy, get explosive, get aggressive. Obviously, he's great at that. I also think he's pretty good at hosting his own show for the most part, when it feels like his heart is in it, when it feels like he has something to say. He does a good job on his own turf. But when it comes to this sort of thing, just sitting there and being like a bland, like generically left-wing host on a voter panel, like, get someone like Chris Cuomo or get someone like Don Lemon. Honestly, I honestly think they make for much better hosts of something like that. Cenk just feels kind of defanged. It feels very lame. He doesn't really feel all that interested or passionate about this kind of work. So I don't even think that's going to work out, because we just saw he's not a draw. This didn't result in people clicking. It's not like a bunch of people tuned in to see Cenk Uygur sit next to Dr. Phil. I'm not sure if more people would have tuned in to see Chris Cuomo. But again, just from like a standpoint of here's a normie guy saying bland things, I think someone like Cuomo or Lemon would honestly do a better job anyway. Cenk's not really the kind of guy for this role.